every time we cut the prices, we play better. Let's go, kick down the field.
An Ultiworld subscription gets you closer to the players and personalities you care about with game video, in-depth written and video analysis,
He's going to take off deep, but what he does is very simple.
documentary shorts,
And we've played Brute Squad before, and it just feels a little bit harder to lose this year.
and a whole lot more. To get your subscription or learn more, go to ultiworld.com/subscribe.
This game is brought to you by Spin Ultimate, proud to sponsor Ultiworld's 2020 college coverage. Visit Spin Ultimate on the web at spinultimate.com.
Hello and welcome back to Ultiworld's live coverage of Eastern's 2016. Got a great matchup for you this afternoon as Harvard takes on Georgia here in the third round at Eastern's. I'm Charlie Eisenhood, joined again by Cody Johnston. And Cody, we've got a great one here. Got to take note, first of all, that Georgia just handed Minnesota a loss, and a 16-14 win for Georgia puts them potentially in the driver's seat of winning this pool. But first, they got to get through this Harvard team, a very good Harvard team that we saw play very well out west at the Stanford Invite. Cody, what are you taking a look at in this game, and what do you see as the keys for these two teams?
So Harvard Redline came out at Stanford and had a great tournament in the win. They beat Oregon in that quarterfinal, really getting a signature win against them, 15-13, before kind of running out of gas against Wisconsin in the semis. But I'm really looking for them to establish themselves as one of those top 4 or 5 teams here. With strong defense, they have players like Mark Vandenberg, John Stubbs, and yeah, I think Georgia runs a great offense. They're very clean. I'm excited to see their Harvard's defense.
So it'll be Georgia beginning on offense. They're in the whites, Harvard in the reds. Parker Bray with the disc for Georgia to get things started. Big thrower for them. Patrick Trent catches it on the under. And now back to the middle and back to Bray. Bray throws a scoober over to Trent. Back to Bray. See some sagging defense here from Harvard. Trying to slow down an attack that was roasting them earlier when these teams met at the Queen City Tune-Up back in February. Hammer opens up some room for Georgia. Shiryer Ali. Now they go to the front of the end zone, but miss the target. So Georgia with a turnover after getting it into the red zone, and Harvard will have a chance at a break here on the opening point.
Great patience from them to work it all the way through that junky. It looks like a 2-3-2 man on the handlers, junky downfield. Great patience, and then the wind picking up a little bit, pushing that throw too far.
So we'll get our first look at this Harvard D-line. And Huck just blocked right at point of attack, basically. James Thurm tried to throw a forehand Huck, and it was stuffed. So Georgia's going to get it back. Bray will bring it to the line. Backhand just to the front of the end zone for Nathan Haskell. One of their very best athletes and players. Just a sophomore. But Haskell, a big piece for this Georgia team.
And so far at this point, all the offense has been running on this half of the field. It's been running on the downwind side, and I think the teams that get it to that far break side, or the high side, are going to be able to score much easier. And you see Georgia making that move, that backdoor cut, trying to get around behind the mark.
Pick called. So Bray will check it back in here. He throws a scoober, and he gets it into the end zone. So Georgia gets a hold to start this game after Harvard had the chance. And all in all, I think a nice first possession, or first point, I should say, for Georgia.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see this team play. Last year, quietly had a really good year. You know, they didn't necessarily go to Stanford and warm-up, they took an easier schedule. They played an Eastern's qualifier, and then they came into Eastern's, and on the first game on Saturday morning, played a really complete game against Carleton, and then went on to lose to Wilmington in the quarters in a really tight matchup, 15-13. Although they've lost a few pieces like Elliot Erickson, of course, premier player out of the Southeast, they have guys who've been around a while and who made that Nationals run last year after missing Nationals the last few years.
That's right. And we'll talk more about some of their top players later, like Sam Little, mostly playing on the defensive side of the disc. But we talked about Nathan Haskell during that point. And, really, aside from a couple of injuries, a really unfortunate ACL injury to Sebi DiFrancesco, one of their captains and a sophomore captain, which shows you, how much they believe in his talents and leadership. So he's out for the season, unfortunately. But, this is a team that has really grown since the fall when they looked a little rough around the edges. They were moving people into new roles. They lost a lot of senior leadership and talent last year as the poll goes up here from Georgia. So we will take a look here at the Harvard offensive line. Disc gets centered up to Mark Vandenberg, one of the big cogs for this team. Ben Scharfstein back there. He gets it ahead to Alex Hem. Hem finds John Stubbs, certainly the biggest name on this Harvard team, and we'll say his name a lot today, I'm sure. Jonah Hahn with it on the far side. Dishes to Vandenberg. Vandenberg pivoting. Throws a little hammer to get it to Hem. Harvard working hard and now going to the back of the end zone, and Hahn is there for the Harvard hold. So smooth offense to start things off here for Redline. And we're tied at once.
And you see immediately how big an effect Mark Vandenberg has on this Harvard offense. He gets center to, he goes downfield, gets an under, and then throws that score for a goal. And, he played a big role on Ironside's offensive line this past year on the club season. The year before that, he was on Truck Stop's O line for DC.
And we can see here Vandenberg getting open up the line and then making a perfect throw up that line into the end zone. Yeah, he's no joke. He's an elite level club handler, and that makes him one of the very best here in college. And in some ways, he doesn't get the press that some of the big throwers get. Guys like Xavier Magstad, last year John Nethercutt, some of the players who are going to be putting up these 65-yard hucks. But Mark Vandenberg is the kind of guy that you want to have in your backfield. He doesn't make mistakes, and he can break the mark at will. And, yeah, he'll throw a huck from time to time, but that's not necessarily his bread and butter. But, you don't play for Ironside and Truck Stop as a starting offensive player unless you are a very talented player.
He's Harvard's rock, and I think you're going to see him, and John Stubbs specifically, going both ways a lot of the time.
Nice yardage gain for Georgia off the bat here, Parker Bray. Gets it to Haskell. Haskell shooting deep. He's looking for right back to Bray. It's tipped, but then caught, and he got his foot in bounds. That's a goal for Georgia. Nice second effort catch there from Bray after the initial, basically a drop. I mean, he just had to bounce off of his hands.
Yeah, and even though that's a goal, I think that's a small win for the Harvard defense. Every throw was within 3 or 4 yards of the sideline, and I think over the course of the game, if they can keep the Georgia offense on this low side of the field with the wind pushing those throws out of bounds, they're going to generate some turnovers.
Take another look at the throw from Haskell to Bray. Nice pressure from Harvard, but...
Yeah, that had to be a perfect throw, and it was. And Harvard really last year was definitely a rebuilding year. They came into regionals, one bid region for the Northeast, and of course UMass, the powerhouse the last few years there. And they had a heartbreaker loss against Tufts in the semifinals, the game to go to the game to go. They lost 12-11, finished 4th overall, but that Northeast is a really strong region, even though they only got one bid last year.
Yeah, that was definitely, it was tough for them to only get one. looking like they should get 2 this year, with UMass and Harvard both playing very well, and unquestionably the 2 best teams in the region. I'd be surprised to see anybody else get out of the region. But yeah, they were had a big up year a couple years ago, and then last year was a total rebuild. I mean, they had a lot of freshmen; they had to get a lot of playing time. But now with Stubbs and Vandenberg becoming those, senior leadership, they've got a lot of firepower. We'll see what they can do with it this year. Alex Hem on the far side gets it to Stubbs, and now he sends it up the line into the hands of Andrew O'Rourke. And a little dish there to Sharfstein, just on the doorstep of the goal, and John Stubbs gets open for an easy walk-it-in goal. Harvard ties it back up at 2.
In number 12, Ben Sharfstein is really one of those guys. I was watching the Harvard-UConn game. He's really that kind of that third handler behind John Stubbs and Mark Vandenberg. He plays a really big role, and I think when he gets open and can kind of free up John Stubbs to go downfield, good things happen for Harvard. Yeah,
we've seen that from them all year. And one of the things that this Harvard team struggled with earlier on in the season, and at QCTU especially, and particularly against this Georgia team, they just didn't execute. And they had the right movements, the right cuts, the right looks, but they just were not making their throws. And when Sharfstein and Vandenberg and Stubbs are all hitting, they're going to be in a good place. And, really, their cutters are the role players on this team. This is a handler-driven offense. But you can see the success that they have as they march right up the field again.
Yeah, and especially with the wind picking up over the course of probably this weekend, that's going to highlight the fact that Harvard is really deep at the handler position. They have a lot of really good throws, smart use of the wind, and they always earn the high side in windy games.
Rolling pull. Center to Bray. Now Haskell. John Langstaff with it now. Ali to Langstaff. Haskell catches it far side and rips a flick huck. It's going to hang up there, and a big sky in the far end zone. Patrick Trent just climbs the ladder.
Huge grab from Trent right there. And Nathan Haskell with maybe a little bit of a nonchalant flick. I don't think he intended for that one to hang up as long as it did, but his teammate really there bailing him out.
And Georgia loves to do that. They love to put it up there and send their athletes down to make a big play. And we saw it happen there. Let's take another look at that huck. And just sits, but just roofs him.
Yeah, the Harvard defender didn't quite get enough inside positioning to really body him out, and that gave him a clean jump.
So all holds to start here. Harvard did force one turnover.
Yeah, you're seeing both teams kind of come out in junk looks. They both are very aware of the other team's offense being able to just march down the field with their basic man-o. And so Harvard's come out in a 2-3-2 to start. Georgia's come out with some switching, some last back with 3 underneath on the host stack. And I really like that move, really gumming up the offense early.
Yeah, both teams, of course, had a chance to see each other already and have prepared to try to limit the number of 2 to 3 throw possessions, which Georgia did a particularly nice job of at QCTU, just getting their offense off the field in a hurry. Here's the pull from Sam Little. Shorter pull, and Harvard gets about 35 yards off of the first throw there. Mark Vandenberg comes to the sideline for Stubbs. Stubbs, low backhand up the line.
Great around throw, beating the mark to that space.
O'Rourke looking for the reset. It was a little high, but it's handled easily by Vandenberg. Hahn. And the throw too far. So Georgia will now get their first chance at a break after the miscue up the line. It'll be Sam Little checking it in for Georgia. See Bray out there on defense right now. Back to Little. Little steps into a flick huck. He's got a man down there. Nice defense, but not enough. As a great catch is made there by Mason Carey. So Carey now looking to get rid of it. He finds Bray. Bray to Little. Little speed, just overwhelming John Stubbs right now. And then the hammer, crossfield for the score and the break. Beautiful throw. Bryn Huxley-Riker, that's Aiden Rogers with the score for Georgia, and they're up 4-2 on the beautiful hammer.
Sam Little putting his mark on this game early. We saw it in the Georgia-Minnesota game. He was ripping full field hucks. He hasn't really got the recognition with Erickson, being kind of the premier player on this team, but he's played for Chain Lightning. He's got a lot of experience at a high level, and his fitness is something that I'm really impressed with so far.
Well, yeah, you could see him just using his foot speed, and he looks fast and ready to attack from that handler position. And you can see all the different things he can do there, right? He picks it up on the dead disc. He makes a good swing pass. Then he goes fast, speedy strike up the line and has the throws to match. See the big flick huck and then the hammer across to the far side.
And that outside in flick huck is a really difficult throw with the wind coming towards the screen, kind of pushing from far to near on the field. And you saw it kind of turned over very quickly. You have to get a lot of wrist snap to make that throw 40 or 50 yards.
So Georgia coming off of a nice win over Minnesota, and they dominated UConn in the first round today. Now up a break here against Harvard. A win here would all but seal Pool D and get them good seeding heading into tomorrow's championship bracket.
Great pull there from the Georgia D-line.
Vandenberg up ahead to Hem. And just dropped. Vandenberg comes up the line and takes his eyes off the disc a little too soon. And it's a short field opportunity for Georgia. Little runs to it, picks it up. And Little's throw, a little far, but nicely run down, and then the throw too high over the head of the intended receiver, but nice catch made on the second effort, and now Little gets it back, throws it into the end zone, and he's got his man. 5-2 lead just like that for Georgia.
Georgia rolling early, but it really hasn't been their defensive pressure that's been creating these turns. Just a silly drop there, a throw just a little bit too far that glanced off John Stubbs' hand the point earlier, but they've done a great job running Harvard into the ground. Harvard had that game against UConn and smoked them. They beat them, I think, 15-5 maybe. And so Georgia, by contrast, just had a very, very tight, close, high-level game against Minnesota, and I think it shows.
Taking another look at the score here. A little dish to Little. And into the end zone. And the score for Ryan Papafatis.
And that's one thing about Georgia. They spread out the load. They have guys like Parker Bray, Sam Little, Nathan Haskell, all making big contributions, and they're a very big athletic team. I don't think a lot of people realize that, but last year they had 16 guys listed at over 6 feet tall.
Yeah, and they did lose some of that height to graduation, but they're still a tall team and an athletic team. I think, you look around the Southeast at some of these other teams, I think, I don't think Florida matches them in athleticism. I think that, in the past I would have said Central Florida might be the more athletic team, but I don't know if that's true this year. This Georgia team might be the most athletic team in the Southeast this year.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Central Florida has a really big disparity between a guy like number 11. But, they have some guys who are some 6'7", 6'8" freshmen who are really raw, but their handling core is, 5'8", 5'9", and so there's a really big gap between those two.
Whereas you see a guy like Sam Little back as a main handler for this Georgia team, and he's one of the most athletic players on the field.
Mm-hmm. And because Georgia's improved their disc skills across the board, he's able to extend downfield as well. So he's not just kind of locked into that handler spot distributing.
Right. So you see Harvard huddling up there, talking it out on the offensive line. They need to sharpen up here and quick. Don't want to let this one get away from you in the first half. And, one of the concerns about this Harvard team is, are they deep enough down the roster? They obviously have a tremendous high end, but if Mark Vandenberg drops a strike cut,
who do you go to?
What do? You can't take him out of the game, and of course that would be an overreaction to that play, but they don't have a lot of options for, well, let's just put a whole new line out there. They can't do that. So they really need their guys to execute, and that's one of the things that Coach Mike McKenzie talked about before the game. We have to execute better than the last time we played this team. So back to work, John Stubbs near side. Hem, looking for Vandenberg on the reset, hits him. Stubbs. David Reschiff on the far side. Hahn up the line to Vandenberg. And Vandenberg zips it in there, hits Sharfstein, and Harvard gets the hold that they were looking for.
And that's exactly how you want to come out of a timeout. Nice, composed, clean ultimate, not looking for any big shots, any hero balls, but just nice, calm, and composed. And so far this season, Harvard, 8-4 record. They attended Queen City Tune-Up and Stanford Invite. They had that impressive run to the semifinals at Stanford before, running out of gas against Wisconsin. But, they had a tight 14-12 loss to Pittsburgh in the pool play. They got a signature win over Oregon. So this is really a big test for them going into the series, is can they stay with top dogs like Georgia, UNC Wilmington, and, even maybe a UNC.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's definitely the question mark. And I think the thing is they've been getting better and better. So what we saw a month ago doesn't really resemble the team we're seeing now on the field. I think one of the big questions about Georgia is consistency. They all play great for half and then look awful the next half. And that's what happened to the Tally Classic. They go undefeated on Saturday, including beating the eventual champion of the tournament, Auburn, 13-10, and didn't give up a break in that game, and yet they turn around on Sunday and lose all their games.
3 straight losses, yep. And Georgia's really a team that's been around a while. They're established, and they're really kind of trying to gain consistency on the national level. They qualified for nationals 6 consecutive times between 2005 and 2010, and then they made nationals last year for the first time after missing it 3 years out of 4.
Georgia offense cooking. Bray. Backhand looking to the end zone. And just a bit too far.
Those are exactly the throws I was talking about earlier, Charlie. The more that Harvard forces backhand, the closer they get to the sideline. The wind acts as like an 8th defender.
So now Harvard with a chance to get one of these breaks back. Throw too high, and it's going to be right back to Georgia. So you can see, when you talk about the depth problems, this D-line running with some of those bench players, and it can be a little bit harder for them to find offense, especially against a good athletic defense that Georgia's going to show them. Sam Batson with it here. He'll swing it over to Ali. Haskell. Big loopy flick out to the far side. And a nice read there from John Langstaff, who kind of baited the defender past him.
That's two that Haskell's had that have really floated up there both times. His athletic receivers helping him out there.
Ali, flick up the sideline, and he's got a man at the back of the end zone. And Georgia's scoring quick. 6-3. We're just 25 minutes into this game, and we're already nearing the half here.
Yeah, Georgia looks calm, comfortable, and composed.
Absolutely. And, no worries when they just miss a little bit of the backhand to the front cone and get it right back with the defense.
And last year, again, kind of like Minnesota at Nationals, they quietly had a pretty good tournament. They went 2-2 in pool play, and in that first round against Pittsburgh, they lost a heartbreaker, 15-13. And then they ended up beating Wisconsin to make the pre-quarters, and beating Wisconsin at Nationals is a hard thing to do. One thing I've been loving this weekend so far is the sideline presence that all the teams have brought. UNC, I was watching them earlier against Virginia Tech. They have pool noodles. They're screaming spring break. That's great. UNC Wilmington has Gatling guns and BB guns running on the field. And UCF earlier had a fishnet to hook whoever got the break.
I saw that fishnet. It's fun. People, it's college ultimate, it's that time of year where the weather's great today. Everybody's in a great mood. And we got some exciting action. We'll keep you up to date on scores as we go along here in this contest. You can also follow along at ultiworld.com/live if you're just watching on YouTube. If you go over there, you can check out our live updating scoreboards and stay up with what's happening around the fields here at Easterns. Stubbs and Vandenberg in the backfield. And Sharfstein for Harvard.
Georgia coming out in that junk look again. Took them a little while to get set, but it did slow down this initial Harvard attack.
Alex Hem, far side. Swings it around to Stubbs. A pick call here. If you're enjoying our coverage, let us know. See something we need to do better? Let us know. Find us on Twitter, Facebook, email. Get an UltiWorld video package, and you can watch all of the archives of these games and dozens more from the college season. As Vandenberg gets it and fires a hammer into the end zone for Stubbs. And a nice hold there for Harvard. And at this point, really, the question is, can Harvard find some defense?
Yeah, and I think they're going to be able to with that pressure with the backhand mark forcing against the wind, and then also running some of these junk sets that gave Georgia a little bit of trouble on the first point. Right now we're sitting at 6-4. Out of those 4 goals for Harvard, Mark Vandenberg has 3 assists.
Yeah, no surprise there as we take a look at this one that he just threw. Perfect hammer to Stubbs. Called for it.
And really, so far this season, I don't think Harvard's seen an elite-level defense. Although,
the one time that they did against Wisconsin in the semifinals at the Stanford Invite, they got shellacked. And I think they lost 15-7, something like that. They were very tired at that point. They had to expend a lot of energy to beat Oregon the round before. But that's a good point. They played at QCTU, kind of early in the season. And then at Stanford, they didn't have a super tough path, and they played Oregon, a very good team, but not necessarily a great defensive team. But then they did see Wisconsin, and they ran into a wall with that one.
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see as they match up against more teams this tournament, like a UMass or UNC Wilmington. When last year we saw Cale Ward for UNC Wilmington come out and shut down Bobby Lay. When teams have like 1 or 2 guys who are just make life hard, how is Harvard going to react when their top 2 players get minimized?
And that of course, is the question. This team seems to go as Vandenberg and Stubbs go, and they're certainly one of the best duos in all of college ultimate right now. But they are also heavily relied upon, as we see a nice layout there from Stubbs. But Georgia attacking down the field, and is he into the end zone? And we wait for the signal, and yes, he is. So just like that, Georgia scores again. And although Harvard had a little chance on that undercut, blown coverage deep makes for an easy score. And Georgia back up by 3.
That's been the big knock on Georgia in the past, is they haven't necessarily handled zones very well. Obviously, they're big athletic. They like to huck. But this year, I'm really impressed with how they use their fakes to move the defense and to open up spaces that, if you stay stationary, aren't necessarily there. And Georgia, for the second year in a row, has kind of taken a little bit of an easier schedule. You know, they didn't go to Stanford. They didn't go to warm-up. And I kind of like that move because it lets you get some of your younger players into semifinals and finals games. At Queen City, they went to semis against UMass. And I really kind of like that move. Yes, there's something to be said for getting elite-level competition all the time. But there's the other side of the coin is getting your O-line reps and getting comfortable and confident playing together. And I think we're seeing that here.
See Sam Little getting set to pull here for Georgia.
This would be a big break going into halftime. 8-4. I think this would be a statement break.
Yeah, good chance. See Bray back out there again. Playing a lot of points right now. Vandenberg takes a centering pass for Harvard. Out to Stubbs. Fakes the flick huck. Instead goes up the line to O'Rourke. Now up the line to Vandenberg, who gets a little bump in the back from Bray. And I think not quite into the end zone there, so a few yards out. Hammer again. And again, he finds pay dirt. So Harvard scores again with the cross-field hammer. And that's a goal for Jonah Hahn. And another nice O-point there for Redline.
Redline doing a great job just working that high side, and Mark Vandenberg open at will for strikes. And you see how comfortable he is playing against physical defense. You know, I'm sure he saw a lot of that playing for Ironside this year. He gets a huge bump, not phased at all, steps back, taps it in, easy hammer for a goal. And for Georgia, they're really a team that's driven by their youth and their connection with the YCC team out of Atlanta. Last year, they had 5 guys come in and really make a big difference.
A fantastic recruiting class last year for this team.
Nathan Haskell, Sebastian DiFrancesco.
Yep.
And this year, Mason Carey on their O-line.
Right. And, you know, it's going to be exciting to see this team continue to evolve as Haskell, really one of the great young playmakers in the Southeast. And DiFrancesco coming back next year, of course, after the injury, keeping him off the field, unfortunately, this year. But they will lose again some leadership after this season, but very bright future for this team. Stubbs prepping to pull for Harvard. Ali holding. Puts up a backhand. He's looking for Bray. Bray matched up with Vandenberg, and just outright speed from Parker Bray. And just like that, Georgia takes the half. And just a great look at a high stall situation to a speedy cutter like Bray.
Yeah, really good reset pressure. They shut down 4 or 5 resets right off the bat, but it didn't matter because if you have a full field huck with an athlete running deep. And also, I think you see Mark Vandenberg going both ways. He can't necessarily play defense on one of their best matchups at a high level, going both on offense and defense over the course of a game.
So a halftime score here, Georgia 8, Harvard 5. We'll be back in about 10 minutes for the start of the second half.
What does it mean to be powered by Savage? It means we become part of your team. From the moment you're paired with one of our sales reps who will guide you through the ordering process, to working with a designated member of our design team to bring your vision to life. Every step of the production process happens in-house, from printing your gear on our Green Line fabric made from 100% recycled plastic bottles, to cutting out every piece and carefully stitching it together by hand. Wherever you are, however you play, we've got your back. That's what it means to be powered by Savage.
Welcome back to UltiWorld's live coverage of Eastern's 2016, where Georgia has an 8-5 lead over Harvard here in the third round of Saturday. I'm Charlie Eisenhood, joined by Cody Johnston. And Cody, Harvard's got some work to do here in the second half. What's it going to take for them to claw back?
Yeah, Georgia's come out and looked really strong early on. I talked to Harvard coach Mike McKenzie during halftime, and he really was pretty happy with how the O-line played. They had 2 execution mistakes that Georgia capitalized on, but other than that, he was happy with how the O-line played. The biggest thing, he said, was that we got to stop playing jump balls. We need to win some of those jump balls, and we need to trust our marks and be on the right side of our man. He also really talked about we need to earn the high side on our D-line offense. They're having a lot of trouble getting off the sideline, moving it laterally against Georgia's offensive unit running defense because they run a bracket.
And for Georgia, is it just more of do the same here? As it's a pretty strong first half for them.
Yeah, I think we're going to get a chance to see, can they play a complete full game and keep applying the pressure to this Harvard O-line?
Definitely a question. They've had the tendency this season to catch little flat spells in their game. So see what they can do as Harvard begins the second half here on offense. John Stubbs gets it ahead and now up the line in the hands of Alex Hem. Sharfstein swinging it around, and Vandenberg finds Stubbs. And a nice, quick, easy hold for Harvard's offense as they get it back within 2 as we begin the second half.
Great way to start off the half if you're Harvard. But I saw Parker Bray for Georgia playing defense at the back of the stack. He gave his man 3 or 4 steps deep, and John Stubbs still didn't try to throw it. I think if you're Harvard, you need to start testing them deep and take some shots to open up the unders for the rest of the game.
See here again the Vandenberg-Stubbs connection, which has been there all season.
And that's one thing that Harvard does extremely well, is because they move the disc so quickly laterally, it forces the defense to switch. As it just moves to the break side, you have to cover that break side, and just a simple fake by Vandenberg opens up Stubbs for the score. Sitting here at 8-6, Harvard still going with more of a standard D-line. We don't see Vandenberg or Stubbs on the field. I think the key for them this half, one of their depth players has to step up and start making some plays.
We'll see if they can make that happen. Their D-line needs to find some better pressure against this Georgia offense. Nathan Haskell steps right into a big backhand. Bray all alone, and that is not how you want to start the half if you're Harvard, but you love it if you're a Georgia fan. Easy money for Parker Bray.
That's just bread and butter. That's too easy. That's a giveaway D point for Harvard. And Harvard Bray with a little bit of a showboating. Nathan Haskell threw that disc before Bray had even started accelerating. Those are two players on the exact same page.
Now let's see it again. Haskell just steps into the backhand, trusting the speed of Bray. And he knew it all along.
And you see the versatility of this Georgia squad. Sometimes they'll have Nathan Haskell back as a handler. Sometimes he's downfield initiating from the host stack. A lot of time Parker Bray is distributing as a handler on the D-line offense.
Yeah, we saw him start the game as the taking the centering pass.
Yeah, they're okay. They don't run very rigid O and D lines. They're okay mixing and matching their players and putting them in different roles.
Yeah, and it's a real contrast to what a lot of teams do. I mean, we're watching the earlier games today. It's very distinct O and D lines, and then sometimes players would cross over. Whereas this Georgia team seems to like to mix and match a little bit more. We've seen Parker Bray out there a lot. He's taking this point off though on defense. There's a nice pull again from Sam Little. Hem here on the near side. O'Rourke up to Stubbs. A pick called as Stubbs flips it over to Vandenberg, but he'll come back here to the sideline.
And you see Georgia willing to let Harvard hit that first under because it puts them on this trap sideline.
Sam Little on the Stubbs matchup here for Georgia. Little dish to Sharfstein up line. Hem. You can see Harvard is just stuck, glued to this near sideline. Inside backhand. Opens things up now. Vandenberg. And a little backhand back to that same forced sideline. And it's a goal for Hem. And Harvard's offense continuing to look fairly smooth, even if they struggled there to move it over to the break side.
Yeah, and I think they're okay with that because Georgia is giving them so many free unders. It's okay to give them one to get them to that trap sideline, but you can't continue to get beat to that same side over and over and over. 2 goals for Harvard this half, 2 assists for Mark Vandenberg.
So what's his totals at now?
He's at 6 assists.
6 assists of Harvard's 7 goals. Nice game, and shows you the reliance that they have on him.
In the contrast, Parker Bray with an assist, Sam Little with 2 assists in the first half, Nathan Haskell with 3 assists so far this game.
Mixing it up. Part of that is that Harvard has not been able to put breaks on the board, so Vandenberg getting a lot of the assists for the O-line, but they're fine with that. They want him to be the assist man.
Yeah, and this Georgia O-line has also been pretty stingy with the disc. They haven't given Harvard too many chances to break. We saw 1 short field turnover at the beginning of the first half, but other than that, it hasn't been quite a clean sheet, but they played very, very well. Yes.
You see Stubbs getting ready to pull here for Harvard. It's starting to feel like they're running out of time a little bit. Need to make something happen. Bray takes a centering pass, and now he's going to be the one launching it deep, but it goes right into the hands of Ben Sharfstein. So the huck a little too low, and Harvard's got their best chance of the game. And look, all the firepower's out there. Vandenberg looking for Stubbs, break side, and Stubbs between 2 defenders makes the play. Just like that, Harvard gets the break, and what do you know? Vandenberg to Stubbs. They do it again.
And that's what I'm talking about. I don't think Georgia's defense was ready for that huck. I think that they're pretty comfortable with their athleticism. They sit underneath and dare teams to throw that. There, Vandenberg making a pinpoint throw.
Take another look at the tailing throw from Vandenberg.
If Vandenberg puts a flat flick out to the right end zone, the near end zone, that's a turn. That's a really high-level club throw, putting it outside in, having it trail over the break side, only letting Stubbs have to play at it.
Right. The defender on the far side had no chance to get there, and Parker Bray on the near side just went right over his head. Beautiful execution from Vandenberg. And we got a 1-point game.
Yeah, you see Vandenberg, Stubbs, Sharfstein right back out there on the line. They are hungry for this break.
Yeah, and they know the importance of this game, especially with Georgia winning over Minnesota. This would give them some breathing room against Minnesota later today in terms of making the bracket. Harvard sideline getting fired up here as Stubbs puts up another pull. Beautiful pull from Stubbs to the back of the end zone. Ali takes the first pass deep in the Georgia end zone. Dished out to Bray, far side. Oh, a very nice inside flick there from Bray. This throw pops up a bit, and a nice catch from Ali under pressure. Ali inside flick to Langstaff, and now he'll go crossfield, and he's got his man Trent with the goal, and a nice bounce back point from Georgia as they get back out in front by 2.
I think last year, Georgia gives up another break. They looked a little bit flustered. They had a few throws pop up, but they were able to work that high side of the field and hit a ton of really difficult inside flicks.
Yeah, looked good. And it's funny you say that. They would have given up a break on that last year. That was one of the problems for the Georgia team from last season, is that they tended to give up breaks and runs. This year's team, less prone to that, more prone to just playing flat for stretches. But we haven't seen that at all in this game, to their credit. They give up the one break on kind of a fluky low huck getting blocked in the lane, and they turn right around and play great offense coming back the other direction. And, if they can keep up the intensity, they've been the better team throughout this game.
Certainly. And I don't know if it was by design or it just kind of happened to flow that way, but the Georgia host stack drifted really far downfield, which opened up almost like a dominator for the Georgia handlers to work in.
Is there a South Carolina team? No idea. No, they're all from.
There's the pull from Georgia. Going to tack on a break here. This pull is going to trail out of bounds.
Great D off the bat by Sam Little, shutting down Stubbs' first cut.
Stubbs comes underneath here, gets it, goes ahead to O'Rourke. Vandenberg. Big bid, but too far. Chris Haley can't get there. Sam Little picks up immediately and rips it deep. He's got 2 down there, and a great play. George Summers tracks it down. And Georgia with the quick break to go up 11-8.
This Georgia team plays fast, and I love it. I think that was a really good decision for Sam Little to run, knowing he had the wind at his back. He was on the high side of the field, and he could put a nice flat flick huck to space.
So Harvard thinks maybe they're building a little momentum. The sidelines chanting. Instead, Georgia turns it around, marches it up the field for a hold, and then gets the quick break. Sam Little with the nice assist.
And number 21, Ali, is another one of those guys. I'll be honest, I didn't know who he was coming into this tournament. They're centering to him on the O-line.
Yeah, they've got great depth. I think that's one of the things that's really standing out to me in this game, the difference in depth between the two teams. For Harvard, it's been really a lot, and it's not a stretch to say this. It's really been a lot of Vandenberg and Stubbs.
Yeah.
And for Georgia, a lot of players filling up the stat sheet, lots of different combinations. One time Parker Bray hucks it, the other time he runs down a huck. And you just don't see that versatility and depth from a lot of teams, and I think that's why they have good prospects in the Southeast, especially if they continue to play this well. They may very, very well end up with another bid because right now Georgia's not inside the range to earn a bid for the Southeast to Nationals, but it's looking more and more likely that they're going to get that after beating Minnesota and now with a 3-point lead here on Harvard. Vandenberg looking deep to Stubbs. Stubbs and Little battling. Stubbs goes up, it tips, and he catches it on the second effort. Oh, nice play Nice heads-up second ever play there from John Stubbs. And good defense from Little, who put pressure the whole way and made Stubbs miss it first time.
Yeah, that's great D. I mean, it looked like he thought that just had sailed over both their heads. John Stubbs gets a hand on it, and then it floats in the wind. I like Harvard coming out early and being aggressive in the second half with their deep looks.
See the shot from Vandenberg. Little battling for position. Stubbs tips it, follows the play.
And Harvard's been a team over the past couple years who have obviously had some really quality players come into their program and go out of their program to play high level in the Northeast. You know, guys like, of course, George Stubbs, but Misha Herskew, Jeremy Nixon, Piers McNaughton, all those guys have gone on to do great things at the club level as well.
This Georgia team, of course, feeds into Chain Lightning. It has plenty of history of its own.
And this is the point of the game that, you know, you don't want to keep trading. You need to get a break at this point, and I think you hear that with the sidelines picking up. They sense that this is a big moment in this game.
Disc rolls out of bounds. It'll be Bray to pick it up here. It's Reshef on the mark for Harvard. Bray bounces it to Ali. Now he's going to take off downfield. Ali's looking for somebody else, though. He's got Langstaff down there, and it's an easy score. Georgia's offense staying hot. Harvard can't keep up. 12-9, Georgia leads.
That's a straight-up nasty throw from Ali, using the wind to his advantage, really putting it on a shelf by having an inside-out tilt and letting the wind just kind of take it and push it down for an easy score.
So Georgia's offense looking even better here, I would say, in the second half. Take another look at that throw and the easy rundown for Langstaff. So a fairly clean game hums along here. We're already at 12-9 with still more than 30 minutes until the soft cap. So, you know, still plenty of time for Harvard, but again, we just haven't really seen the defensive pressure. The only time they've had chances have come mostly on flukes.
Yeah, and they've run that 2-3-2 or junk a little bit. I'd love to see something like a four-man cup or something that puts a little bit more pressure once it just gets to the sideline. I think especially with the wind starting to pick up and become kind of this crosswind, it's going to be even harder for teams to work off the sideline, so why not pressure it a little bit more?
Here's Little with the pull.
Great pull.
Vandenberg. Stubbs. Looking deep. Put it on a rope, and it's way too much from Stubbs there. And it'll be Georgia disc.
But Harvard's doing a better job attacking the deep space, and I think the reason is they've switched from a traditional vert stack, which I think is their bread and butter, to a host stack, which really spreads out that Georgia defense and lets them isolate John Stubbs off the bat.
So we'll see if this Georgia D-line can work the distance here. And outside of, and instead it's a Callahan. Ben Sharfstein gets to Callahan for Harvard on the swing pass. And it's back to a 2-point game.
And that's what I'm talking about. I think taking those aggressive shots is okay because you have to be willing to live with some turnovers. And on the turn, Georgia's D-line offense hasn't, they've worked at some, but giving them 70 yards to work with rather than 20 or 30 gives you a much better chance at a play like that. And Sharfstein, one of those depth players, coming up, making this huge play as we watch the replay.
And just a bad swing pass. And Sharfstein putting pressure in that lane and goes up, takes it away.
Yeah, Harvard definitely not out of this game by any means. Plenty of time left. They just need one or two more big plays.
Yeah. And that's the kind of play that can get you fired up. And the thing is, Georgia has withstood any of those little Harvard surges here and there. They got the break. Georgia punched right back. Now they're going to have to punch right back here again. See Coach Mike McKenzie out there talking to his defensive line. Stubbs. Pull lands with Langstaff, and he hits Haskell. Haskell looking deep for Bray. Bray does it again! Oh, and it looks like he might be hurt. What a catch from Parker Bray, but you really hope that he doesn't have any kind of major injury on this. Against triple coverage, he comes down with it. And two players shaken up. Harvard player down as well here.
Straight up incredible grab from Parker Bray there, fighting off potentially the player of the year there in John Stubbs.
And Bray coming up to his feet on his own power, holding that left shoulder a little bit and maybe also banged up in his left leg. But looks like he's going to be okay. And that's good. And now he's back down. Hate to see that. Came down hard on that left side. Let's take another look at the amazing catch.
Fight Stubbs there for the inside position and just earns a goal for his team, putting his body on the line.
And we'll take one more look here. Let's see if we can see what happens on the landing. Makes a great catch with the right hand, and then he just gets flattened, basically. Just a collision. These two players kind of take him out. See the pain in his face there on that left arm. Well, we'll keep an eye on him. Hope to see that he's okay. But you can't take away the fact that that was an incredible play.
Yeah, one of the best plays we've seen all weekend for sure.
Absolutely. So back to a 3-point lead for Georgia. It's going to be George Summers getting set to pull here for Georgia.
Another really good pull.
Vandenberg. Now Stubbs. Hem back to Vandenberg. Dished off to Sharfstein. Working in the backfield. Sharfstein to Vandenberg.
Georgia doing a nice job switching on some of those Sharfstein uplines, but his aggressiveness is really earning Harvard's offense a lot of easy swings.
Oh, a huge layout from Georgia. But a nice play from Reshef to complete the catch. Sharfstein. Up the line and into the hands of Hem. So a grinding point, but Harvard puts it in. Back within two.
Yeah, the style that Harvard plays really takes a toll. You know, they're not a super aggressive team with their deep throws, and because they rely so heavily on guys like Scharfstein, Vandenberg, and Stubbs to do that over the course of every game, you know, they have a tough schedule coming up. They have Central Florida, who's no joke, as well as Minnesota Grey Duck. So, yes, they scored here, but I feel like these really long points take a toll over the course of the weekend.
See if they can dial something up here, but they've been beat on first or second throw hucks on the last 3 or 4 points. You know, of course, the question is, will Bray be back in there for Georgia? See Harvard huddling up here for a timeout. And it looks like right now Parker Bray has ice on his left shoulder. And it doesn't look like he's going to play. So may not see him again in this game.
Yeah, that's a big loss, but I think, you know, it's a good opportunity for more of those young players to step up and get quality minutes in a meaningful game.
See Bray there holding that ice on his shoulder as he talks to his teammates on the line.
I'm really interested to see what defensive scheme Coach Mike McKenzie comes out with. He's done a lot of forced backhand, a lot of that 2-3-2. I'm really interested to see who matches up on Sam Little and Ali, if it's man, and what kind of zone they throw if they choose to do that.
It's coming out of the timeout here. 2-point game, 24 minutes to the soft cap, so probably not going to come into play in this game. Stubbs with the pull for Harvard. Little here on the near side for Georgia.
Looks like they're coming out with some junk, forcing this downwind sideline.
Haskell back to Little. Back to Haskell. Back to Little. Just roasting up the line and chewing up most of the field with strike cuts. Little swings back to the center. Little marshaling the offense here for Georgia.
Nice patience there by Little.
Sam Batson dumps back to Little. Bobbled and dropped by Haskell. Nathan Haskell can't hang on to that scuba. And Harvard will have an opportunity to close this down to a 1-point game. Reshef catches it near side and just makes a terrible throw up the line there. Not sure what happened, if it just came out wrong or it didn't put enough power on it, but either way, Sam Little gets an easy block. And it's right back with Georgia. Haskell to Ali.
And that's a head-shaking decision if you're Harvard's coach. Obviously, it's hard with your deep threat, your best deep threat going deep with steps, but you need to holster that and swing it.
Ali bobbles, and now he can't come up with it. So 2 execution errors for Georgia, unforced errors. And Harvard gets another opportunity.
I believe Harvard still has 1 timeout left this half. I wouldn't be surprised if they get it past half field if they use that.
Vandenberg finds Stubbs. Stubbs muscles a backhand. He's looking for John Rahill. It's a 1-on-1, and great defense from Georgia. And we got a call here.
Looks like an injury call?
Yes. A little cramp up from Georgia defender there.
Georgia with their third chance to put in this score. And if you're Harvard, you have to be a little bit frustrated with the chances that you've had haven't necessarily been valued. They haven't really treated the disc as well as they could have.
Haskell checks it in for Georgia. Langstaff back to Haskell. Little looking for somebody, and he finds Ali. Gets it back. Now the big gainer up ahead to Aiden Rogers. Ali and Little working together nicely. Little nice inside backhand back to Ali. And we have a call as there was a collision in the stack.
Harvard had a great chance for D there. It was a high stall count, close to their own end zone. Ali bailed him out by crashing through that Harvard zone.
Harvard defense tightening up here near the end zone, but now an opportunity for Georgia, and they punch it in. Nice throw from Nathan Haskell to the end zone for Rogers, and Georgia's on the doorstep of a victory here as they go up 14-11.
Haskell's had a few of those flicks that have floated up. That one, perfect. Sits on a shelf, lets his receiver make a play.
And talked about it before the game, talked about it again at halftime. Can Georgia put together a complete game? They've absolutely done that here against Harvard. And if they come out of this game, they're going to have two very good wins over Minnesota, over Harvard, basically locking up the pool. And not only locking up the pool, but beating two top 10 teams in the country right now. And, you know, the inconsistencies notwithstanding, this Georgia team has elite potential, and you're seeing that on display here this afternoon.
Exactly. And, you know, they came in as a tournament 12 seed. Ulti World had them at 23 in their power rankings. I think they're going to jump up a few spots.
I think so, too. Let's take another look at the throw from Haskell here. And, you know, that's deceptively difficult throw out into that space. You can't go too far because of the sideline. And if you underthrow it, it's going to get blocked.
And Georgia's put together some really quality games. They had a good game against Carleton last year in the first game of pool play. And after losing to UNC Wilmington in that barn burner last year in quarters at Easterns, they went on to beat North Carolina and Wisconsin. Two very good teams.
What does it mean to be powered by Savage? It means we become part of your team. From the moment you're paired with one of our sales reps who will guide you through the ordering process, to working with a designated member of our design team to bring your vision to life. Every step of the production process happens in-house, from printing your gear on our green line fabric made from 100% recycled plastic bottles, to cutting out every piece and carefully stitching it together by hand. Wherever you are, however you play, we've got your back. That's what it means to be powered by Savage.
So time running out here on Harvard. And you see basically almost every point here in the second half, we've seen John Stubbs and Mark Vandenberg out there. And that's what they have to do if they want to be competitive. There's really no way you can see. I mean, try to imagine a line from Harvard, the best seven you want to pick that don't include those two. It's hard to see them scoring. And that's a problem for them, is that they just can't go deep enough on defense in order to let those guys only play offense and cross over and stay fresh. So you're seeing them sort of come to their limits here. A good team, but one that has a lot of work to do still if they want to get up into that next tier. Vandenberg goes around to Hahn. Now Hem. Hahn finds Reshef. Sharfstein, near side for Vandenberg. Sharfstein. Back to Vandenberg. Looking and floating a backhand into the end zone for Hem. And another hold for Harvard.
Sharfstein for Harvard is a workhorse. He's one of those guys who I think can really step up and be that third or fourth guy over the course of a weekend to just make plays for them. Although he didn't necessarily get the disc a ton there, he was constantly grinding on those upline cuts, opening up the front of the stack to be isolated in space and get a nice easy reset. It's a really underrated thing that some players do that they don't get recognized for.
Okay, so some quick score updates from around the division. Carleton is up 14-7 right now, and they're playing against Arizona State. JMU trailing Florida State 8-7. UNC got off to a nice start against Virginia Tech. Is up 12-5 right now against Michigan. Central Florida up 11-7 on UConn. And the number one team in the country also in action this weekend, but not here at Easterns. Wisconsin playing out at Trouble in Vegas. So keep an eye on their results as well. You can follow along with all of our Easterns coverage at ultiworld.com/live. This is Ultiworld's live coverage from Myrtle Beach at the 2016 Easterns tournament.
And this is do or die time right now for this Harvard team, you know. Sitting at 14-12, they need a break. They've loaded up this line to try to get that.
See what Georgia does. Don't be shocked if they take that early huck again. Here's Ali. Sideline for Haskell. Haskell shoots deep. He's got a man, and it's dropped. Oh, a painful end zone drop. And can Harvard take advantage? Stubbs. Mylan Ravenel goes up ahead, staying on this sideline. Now Reshef. Reshef, who had that rough turnover on the backhand huck, just continues to Sharfstein, and a little clogging in the backfield there for Harvard, but Vandenberg gets the reset. Now Sharfstein right back to Vandenberg. They're working. Chance to break here in the red zone. Vandenberg getting every other right now. Now Sharfstein. Harvard looking, backhand, pops up. It's going to be anyone's disc, and Harvard comes down with it. Ravenel makes the play after Sam Little jumps a little too soon, and Harvard gets it back within one.
That's a big-time break for Harvard, and although he didn't make the catch, great positioning by John Stubbs, by Mark Vandenberg, just to stand there, make Sam Little go up, and trust one of the other players would come and make a play on that floated disc.
You'll see that backhand again. It just popped up into the air. And Little just got stuck on the back there. And Ravenel able to come in and make the play. A huge break. And Harvard keeps it interesting here as we get towards the end of this round. And a timeout on the field.
And that's such a frustrating play if you're Georgia. To give up a break like that on a floaty throw, and Nathan Haskell throwing a perfect space throw. That backhand down the sideline with the wind pushing it out of bounds. He's able to put a nice outside-in edge on it, keep it inbounds, puts it on a platter, and his receiver just can't make the play.
And we've seen a couple of those just miscues on catches from Georgia this half. In fact, their throwing has actually been extremely sharp, but they've just missed some simple catches, and none worse than the one we just saw. So Harvard with life as we come out of this timeout.
You see Harvard putting those same guys out there. Stubbs, Vandenberg, Sharfstein looks like he's taking a breather. Vandenberg, this half, 5 assists, 9 assists for the game.
Wow. Stubbs holding here, preparing to pull. Game still on the line. This is 3 game point opportunities for Georgia. Just missed 1. 2 more, at least. We still have not reached the cap.
Maybe Georgia feeling the absence of Parker Bray going out with that injury.
I mean, I think absolutely. He's probably been the most impressive player this game. And out with the left shoulder injury after the fabulous catch in triple coverage as this pull flies just out the back. So pressure dialed up here on the Georgia offense. We'll see how they respond. Langstaff will bring it to the brick mark.
Stubbs taking Nathan Haskell, and I think that speaks to how good Haskell's gotten just as a sophomore.
Langstaff finds Little on the in cut. Little around backhand to Ali, and he drops it. He drops it. Goes up with one hand, and it just spits off of there. And it's a short field opportunity for Harvard to tie the game.
Too casual.
Vandenberg picks up. Gets it to Reshef. And into the end zone. Oh, but there's a call on the field of some kind. Sharfstein got loose. But some questions here. And the observer's going to figure out what's going on. Looks like they're going to convene, talk about what happened here.
Looked like maybe a pick call in the stack. It looks like Harvard's pretty bunched together. I wouldn't be surprised to see this one go back.
And it was Harry Stone catching at the back of the end zone there. And we're still trying to get it sorted out. And it's going to be contested. I'm not sure if it may have been sent to the observers, but they didn't make a ruling as they didn't see it, or maybe there was just a contested. Either way, it's going back. So it'll be with Reshef here about 10 yards out. Harvard with a chance to tie.
Sam Little on Mark Vandenberg. That's going to be a great matchup to watch as they fight this point out.
Checked in, Reshef. Not quite into the end zone. Reshef goes up the line, and he gets to score. Harvard ties it up after back-to-back drops from Georgia, and keeping it interesting here. Now, gonna have to get confirmation on the score situation. This will not be double game point. I do not believe this will be double game point. So we're going to check in with the observers, and I think they're talking to the coaching staffs right now of both teams, letting them know what's going on, because the soft cap goes on in 7 minutes. So I believe this puts us into overtime, and we're going to get confirmation on the particulars of the situation right now.
Yeah, I mean, Harvard's O-line has done just enough to kind of hold as much as they need to. And then right at the end, 14-11, now it's 14-all. They're really kind of similar to how Oregon had to stack up lines last year with that really thin roster. They really have to pick their spots. They're not going to be a team that can generate pressure all game long and kind of tighten the screws. They really have to pick their spots and live with maybe getting 4 breaks in a game.
And they get a couple of gift-wrapped breaks from Georgia here. And again, Georgia feeling the absence of Parker Bray right now. So it's going to be a game to 16. We have confirmation on that, so it is overtime. So this is not double game point. We will continue. Bonus ultimate. Ali. Hits Rogers with the backhands. Bounced back to the middle for Trent. Langstaff now. Inside back. Oh, a tight window there, but a nice catch from Trent to Ali. Zipped over to Haskell. Little. Back to Rogers. Pick
Great
called.
dump D by John Stubbs, denying Nathan Haskell the disc. Near the end zone, Georgia loves to isolate Haskell. This is a great matchup to watch.
Rogers looking to Little, who can't get open, so they have to fire to the end zone. It's too far out in front. So Rogers looked at Little for 1 second. When Little didn't get open, he turned around, stall getting high, and felt the pressure and had to put it up. And it's back to Harvard.
You need to trust your resets. You need to give Sam Little there 3 or 4 seconds to work rather than just 1 or 2.
Harvard with 70 yards to go, looking to take the lead for the first time in this game. Comes around Ravenel. Stubbs comes on an under, but there's a call here. Pick out of the stack.
And the one advantage of having Vandenberg and Stubbs play so many points is that some of these D-line guys who are running offense now for Harvard are completely fresh.
Stubbs. Around to Vandenberg. Ravenel up line to Reshef. Stubbs working on Haskell. Vandenberg, Little on the mark. Steps around. And a nice play, and I would be shocked if this was called. No, and John Stubbs takes back whatever call he was thinking of making there. Great mark pressure from Sam Little on Vandenberg, forcing that throw to be too far out and around, and Stubbs really never had a chance. Haskell, and a pick call now.
Yeah, that pressure on the mark by Sam Little really forced Vandenberg to throw it a little bit more outside in and kind of floaty than he wanted, and because it was directly into the wind, it pushed it down. And then again, great pressure by Haskell to force that D.
Right. Haskell with Stubbs on the mark. Haskell, backhand out into space, and too much. And the unforced errors continue for Georgia, giving Harvard life where they had none. Ravenel comes underneath for Harvard. Vandenberg. Up to Thurm, now Reshef. Reshef out into space, all alone. And it's a goal for Harvard as Andrew Brennan just runs past his defender, and Harvard's up 15-14.
Huge swing of events there. It looks like Reshef learned his lesson. He, earlier in this half, threw that backhand hook to Stubbs, tail down, learned his lesson, great space throw, finds an open receiver.
And unbelievably, Harvard is in front in this game after just a series of mistakes from Georgia. And, you know, credit to Harvard, their defensive pressure has been better. But still, I mean, we have just watched. I mean, they had this game in hand. They had an open cut to the end zone, and they doinked it. a lot like Wisconsin did in the finals of the Stanford Invite, a chance to win. They went on to win, so it didn't come back to bite them. But, man.
Ali with that nonchalant one-handed grab on the reset gives Harvard a short field for the easy break.
Miscue on the reset, followed by the high stall turnover, then the overthrow from Haskell.
And that's one thing about Harvard. When they get the disc, they are stingy. The disc is golden to them. They don't turn it over very often on their D-line offense when they have Vandenberg and Stubbs on the field.
Right. And, you know, the times that Georgia has gotten it back, for most of this game, they've been able to just punch it in. But here, they've given it back again, and Harvard doesn't usually need more than 2 chances at it.
Yeah.
And so they've got a 15-14 lead. Harvard with a chance to win here on defense. And there's a call here. It's going to be an offsides call. So this will go back for a re-pull.
We might have jinxed him a little bit, Charlie. We were talking about we haven't seen Georgia have a full, complete game, sitting at 8-5 at half.
I did say that. It was 14-11. And, yeah, they still have a chance to get back in and put this away, but there's no question. They've just mentally collapsed a little bit here in the final points.
Great pull by John Stubbs.
Ali. Low backhand. And I believe that was partially hand blocked.
Yeah, I think John Stubbs got a hand on that, and it looked like the receiver just wasn't ready for it.
So Harvard's going to have a 15-yard field here with a chance to end this game. Zip to Sharpstein. Back to Vandenberg. Backhand to the end zone. It's Stubbs. And Harvard wins it. 16-14 in an unbelievable comeback. Harvard takes down Georgia after trailing the entire game.
Incredible comeback, Charlie. Winning that half 11-6. That's the run they went on to take that game.
What a game. Harvard takes it. So Georgia, after beating Minnesota, comes out red hot, outplays Harvard for 95% of this game, and then lets it go at the end. And Harvard takes advantage with the big win. That will take a lot of pressure off of them in the upcoming game against Minnesota. But we could end up, if Minnesota beats Harvard, then we got a 3-way tie at the top. Could get really interesting in Pool D. Wow, exciting. All right, well, we're off next round. Hope you join us back here at 5 p.m. Eastern. Got a great one between Pitt and UNC, a classic rivalry game, and that should be great. Hope you'll join us then. The final score here, Harvard 16, Georgia 14. We'll be back at 5 o'clock. For Cody Johnston, all of us at UltiWorld, I'm Charlie Eisenhood. You're watching UltiWorld's live coverage of Eastern's 2016.
This game is brought to you by Spin Ultimate, proud to sponsor UltiWorld's 2020 college coverage. Visit Spin Ultimate on the web at spinultimate.com.
Every time we touch the license, we play better. Let's go, take down the trail.
An UltiWorld subscription gets you closer to the players and personalities you care about with game video, in-depth written and video analysis,
He's going to take off deep, but what he does is very simple.
documentary shorts,
And we've played Fruit Squad before, and it just feels a little bit harder to lose this year.
and a whole lot more. To get your subscription or learn more, go to ultiworld.com/subscribe.